All right, another patron request here, another double feature. This is the one-man army style double feature, starting here with the movie Nobody, and we will be finishing it up with Sisu. Funny enough, both of these films have sequels this year. Nobody, I think, comes out, or Nobody 2, should I say, comes out this week, tomorrow, I think. And Sisu 2 comes out in November 21st of next year. So I thought that was kind of ironic that both of these have sequels coming out in the same year. So we have good old Saul Goodman himself playing this character called Hutch, which I can only assume that this is, of course, coming off of the back of the popularity of John Wick. And this is more of that everyday man character who's secretly this badass, agent from a bygone era. He's trying to go into retirement, live the normal life. And, he has this secret past where he was a hired killer for the government, and he's like the deadliest man around, but they're putting him in these situations where he seems like he's just the guy next door. This is a pretty common trope in film. They love to do this kind of stuff, the secret agent kind of thing. True Lies, of course, with Harry Tasker, and he's like this regular old family man, but behind the scenes, although Arnold is a much more obvious, action hero looking guy, as to where Bob Odenkirk does kind of look like the everyman. So I think that probably works better when you cast someone like this, somebody who really doesn't look like an action hero, because when they hire Stallone or Van Damme, or, as I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger to try to pretend that he's like, some accountant or something, it's like, yeah, I mean, accountants can get buff and be big guys as well, but it's not hard to believe that guy is tough and whatnot. And with someone like Bob Odenkirk, it is a bit of a believable thing where no one would ever expect him to be a badass, right? I think he plays his part well. I feel like I'd have to really look at Bob Odenkirk's filmography, television or otherwise, to see the variety of characters he's played. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like most actors, as good as they may be, and just acting normal is hard enough on film, but I feel like a lot of actors just act like very slight variations of themselves or just the other characters that they play. And there's nothing with him in this that makes him feel all that different than other characters I've seen him play in the past. He's just a badass in this, as opposed to what I've seen of him with like Saul and other characters. So I always do find it a tad fascinating when there's these actors that play all these different characters and they're regarded as these great actors. And I'm not saying he's not a good actor, for sure. That's not what I'm even trying to get at. It's just, a lot of the times I'm like, well, this is kind of the same character. He looks the same. He sounds the same. His mannerisms are a lot of the same. So, I don't know. I guess, in order to really blow me away with your, character acting, you have to be unrecognizable to me in your role. You have to act absolutely nothing like previous characters, and you have to do it in multiple films, not just like one role where I'm like, wow, you really were totally different there. No, it has to happen in like a lot of films in succession where I'm like, okay, that is this character, that is this character. These are so wildly different from one another. There's nothing similar about them. The way that you talk, the way that you act. I don't know. Does anybody else feel like this? Where a lot of actors, as good as they may be, just kind of feel like the same fucking character in every movie, no matter what. Just really, I don't know. I guess I don't really talk about that much on the channel, but mostly because I watch a lot of horror films, and character acting is not a huge focal point of horror actor discussion. Not saying it isn't ever. I'm just saying it's not usually the focus of my discussion. So this is a non-horror film, and we're dealing with an actor that's in a lot of non-horror things. So that's why this is getting brought up. It just feels like Saul Goodman, if Saul Goodman was secretly a badass. So anyway, all right. So we start the movie with kind of the routine of daily life and how monotonous that is. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, spoilers obviously for the film. Ultimately, he tells this story, which I think is actually kind of cool and fascinating here, is that the thing that got him out of the life, the thing that was his big eye-opening moment, is that he is supposed to be the auditor. He goes in and he kills people for the government. If somebody is like, if they've tried every other thing, he kind of comes in and cleans house. And he comes across this guy, and this guy begs for his life, and he lets him go. And he goes to check on him in 6 months, a year. I think it's like 6 months. And to his surprise, he thinks that he's just going to return right back to the old life, and that he was going to see that he made this big mistake in letting him go. And he finds that no, he really did everything he said he was going to do, and he went and got a family, and he went and changed his life, and is working like a 9 to 5, and is happy. He looks like he's genuinely happy. He watches him, and he's like, this guy really did change. Maybe I can too. And this is his big epiphany of like, well, maybe I don't have to do this anymore. And so he tries to go and have the simple life, the normal life, and he has a family, and he genuinely cares about his daughter and his son and his wife, and all that's good and well. But deep down under it all, he hates the monotony, he hates the repetition, and he provokes this situation more than he needs to, right? Now, they get robbed, which is the catalyst for everything. And then he goes out looking for trouble. He makes it about his daughter's bracelet, but he is just looking for an excuse. And throughout the rest of the movie, he's like, he gives people an out and then begs for them not to take it secretly. Like, he goes and he puts his, gets in his car, and he like crosses his fingers like, please, please, please don't take my offer. Please don't take my offer. And the offer is like peace. And I found that to be a really fascinating element of this movie, is that it's usually the opposite, right? It's usually the guy wants to be done with it, and he goes and he begs the people to quit, and they won't quit, and he's like, no, I want to retire. I want to stay retired. And in this, it's the exact opposite, right? He's trying everything in his power to stay retired, but ultimately he likes the bloodshed, he likes the violence, he likes, doing what he does, and he tries to like pretend he doesn't. But then he goes and he tries to make peace with people, and then asks in his head like, please, 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 please try to fuck with me. Please come out here so that I can kill you. That's probably the best aspect of this film for me. As far as the action sequences go, I am very curious to see the second one, because the director of that is a legit action director, one of the best currently working in film. And I am curious on how much better the action sequences. They're not bad here. They're not. They're good. They're good. And I think a lot of that probably comes down to the fact that you're dealing with a 50-plus-year-old actor who probably has no experience with fighting. And there's only so much you can train someone like that to do. And I think he does a good job. I do. But you are limited. You are limited in what you can do. And I think the director needs to shoot around that. And maybe it won't make any difference, especially now that he's even a little older. But, you know, Timo, who is directing the second film, you know, he has directed some incredible films, horror films as well, but especially a movie called The Night Comes for Us, which is a Netflix movie and is one of the best martial arts fighting action films you'll ever watch, up there with the Raid movies. Probably the closest thing you'll ever get to the Raid movies. So if he can't perfect the direction of action sequences in this series, then no one can. I still think the action sequences in this are good with him when he's fighting hand to hand and whatever. The camera movements slick and things are good, but it's no John Wick, right? But you know, with Keanu Reeves has been training forever, right? I don't know what he was up to pre-Matrix. I don't know how much fighting he was doing at that time. But since the Matrix, for sure, Keanu has always kept up on his physical body and his training. He's done tons of action movies since the Matrix, and he has studied a lot of martial arts and has kept up on that. And it shows in the John Wick movies because he is very proficient in all of the styles in which he's, gunplay, hand-to-hand, movements, just physical. So, I don't know. Anyway, all right. So, he takes the bus to work. This guy, I don't know if this is supposed to keep his profile lower, if he's, trying to not have a license and not really be on the grid as much. I don't know if that's a conscious choice or what, because it seems like from their status in society that he would have plenty of means to have his own automobile. But I don't know, maybe traveling the world, public transit is extremely used over in other countries other than the United States. The United States public transit system is terrible, but other countries really utilize it. And maybe because he was traveling the world so much, he opts for the public transportation mode. I wish we had better public transportation in this country, but man, we are really behind on that and so many other things. And the fact that he keeps missing putting the trash out in the morning on Tuesday or whatever day it is a bit absurd to me. It's almost like he's looking for a reason to get mad. Because you put it out the night before. He misses it 4 weeks in a row, which, why is that trash can not more overflowing? And why isn't there more trash piling up next to it? They never show the trash can any more full after 4 weeks than it was the first week. If you missed that much, there would be so much trash. So, and also, are you an idiot? You put it out the night before. Nobody walks it out. I mean, maybe somebody does, but most people don't walk it out in the morning to try to catch the trash truck. I guess it's supposed to just show that his mind is so preoccupied with the mundane that he just keeps forgetting, and then he wakes up in the morning and it's oh shit. But this guy's supposed to be this very efficient, calculated person who can set up all these booby traps and has this really great memory for stuff throughout. but he can't remember to put the trash out on the street on Monday night. Like, is that really that hard? And if you can't fucking remember, if you are too in your head about it, you have a son who's like 16, 17 years old. He can't take the trash out to the street? Like, come on. I know that this is just supposed to be some kind of like cute little thing in the movie. But yeah, I don't know. So they end up getting robbed. He doesn't fight back, and his kid's all mad at him for it, thinks his dad's a total pussy. Obviously, it's supposed to be ironic humor. The brother-in-law at his work is this total asshole and even points a gun at him with no safety on it because he's like, you need to protect my sister. And he like gives him the gun, and he just puts it in the company freezer in a box that has no like flap on it to cover it, and then just like awkwardly positions another box on it right there in the freezer. What? You don't think anybody's gonna find that? It's literally like anybody opens the freezer, you're pretty much, that thing's just gonna fall out, and you're gonna see the gun. I hope him and his boss and the brother-in-law are the only people who work there, because that made no sense. Of course, it comes back into play later when he's in the fight and he gets the gun. I can't imagine there's anything, but is it dangerous at all to freeze a loaded weapon? I don't know. Obviously, heating it would be a huge issue, but cold, like a below freezing temperature, throw a gun in a freezer? Probably not, right? I don't know. I don't know why it would be, but maybe I'm missing something. Cool to see Michael Ironside, and Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd is, and this is, I don't think this movie's meant to be taken seriously, right? Like the John Wick movies present themselves as absurd to a degree for sure, but also they're very serious films. This is a very playful movie. This reminds me of like a more like R-rated Mr. and Mrs. Smith or something. And yeah, it's fun. I think that's all you're coming to this movie for, is just fun. It's not trying to take itself too seriously. It's very self-aware. You got Christopher Lloyd, who's like 100 freaking years old in this, and he's like an action hero towards the end, which we'll get there when he kills those two guys in his place. That's so silly. And I also, one thing I do appreciate with this film is that, like, the fights, especially the bus fight, is not, like, clean and one-sided. In a lot of action movies, and I think this a lot of the times has to do with the ego of whoever it is, like Seagal, like Steven Seagal, who has, like, the worst ego ever. His fights will be very lopsided, very one-sided. He never wants to look like anyone can get the better of him. And so in his movies, he typically wins pretty easily, which doesn't really make for a very interesting, dramatic thing, right? The character has to be very close to beaten. He has to go up against somebody who's clearly his superior, and then we see him overcome like insurmountable odds. Like, that's what makes for good drama. It makes for good the hero's journey kind of story. And with this one, I think they do a good job of, like, in the bus fight, the brawl is not one-sided. Like, Hutch gets his ass kicked in this. He ends up ultimately winning that fight, but he goes through hell to win it. And now, realistically, you're not going to take on 5 guys who are really, like, in the fight, who are not, like, random regular guys, right? Like, one of these dudes is connected to the Russian mob, and these guys are looking for a fight. These are the kinds of guys that want shit, right? And if a guy like this, no matter how trained you are, you're not going to take on 5 fully able-bodied, physically fit, angry dudes who want to hurt you at one time. You're just not going to be able to do it. It's not realistic. If they charge you all at the same time, you can definitely do some damage to some of them, but ultimately you are not going to win that fight. So, these types of movies are always, you always have to suspend disbelief to a degree, especially when the fights start getting ridiculous and a guy's taking on 100 people in a row, right? Or like, like Ong Bak or something like that, where the guy's just walking up this spiraling thing and they're just all like one at a time running at him and he's fighting. It's like, that's not how that would work. 100 of them would run at you at once and you're finished. There's not anything anybody could do. I don't care who you are, how big you are, how tough you are. You're not taking on this many guys at the exact same time and coming out of it, the winner, the victor. But I still think it's a pretty good representation of like a badass versus a bunch of tough talkers who aren't really fighters. They just come at him like blunt instruments. And to be fair, in a scenario like this, where you are in a bus that contains the fight more to narrow corridors, and it becomes a little more realistic of being able to kind of take them one at a time, because they can't charge you from all sides. They have to kind of keep coming, and there's only so much room for like one at a time. And if you're proficient enough with fighting, you can kind of take down one and then the next one and the next one if they were to come at you individually. But yeah, I think the fight in the bus is the best fight in the film, and I like how much damage he actually takes in it. He says in this that his wife and him haven't had sex in years. We don't really get to have much time with his relationship with his family, which I think is a downside, and I think is something that will be explored much more in the next film, at least from the trailer anyways, where he takes them on vacation and it seems more of like a family outing, because this is one of his driving forces for this whole endeavor, is his love for his family. And we just don't get a lot of time with them to fully flesh out their relationships. But we do get a little discussion of why they haven't, or not why, but that they haven't been romantic. But ultimately, I'm not sure why. Maybe she liked him more when he was Hutch, like the killer. And since he's went more legit, she's not into it. Maybe that's the suggestion here. She also likes him the way that, because he becomes passionless. He's like, I haven't made my lasagna in forever. Like, after he goes and gets into a fight, he feels more like himself. And I guess that's probably what it is. It's like, when he's not himself, she doesn't want to be with him because he's not him. He's just like a shell of a man. He's going through the motions. He's on autopilot. So I guess that makes sense. And then I like how when the Russians like look him up, and this girl who works for the dude, it like looks at his record, she just comes in, throws it on the ground, and is like, you don't have to pay me, I quit, I'm not dealing with this guy. Smartest person in the movie. He kills everyone he works for. Everybody in the like money house, where they're storing the money laundering or money. All of those people die. Every one of his goons die. Everyone around him dies. This girl sees this guy's record and is like, absolutely not. Goodbye, leaves, and gets out scot-free. So she is the one smart person on that side of things. I also like that his wife in this movie is age appropriate. A lot of the times they'll always cast someone like 20 years younger when someone gets to like Bob Odenkirk's age. When you look at their wives that they put with them, the guy will be in his 50s or his 60s, and his wife will be in her 20s or 30s. So it was nice to actually see a woman that actually looked like his age. So good on them for that. And I found it funny that he kind of keeps telling his story to men that are dying, which I think makes perfect sense because he is somebody who's all about his secrecy. He has to keep whatever he's done a secret. So, but he's also somebody who doesn't like to hold it in. So he wants to tell someone, and he decides to tell people right before they expire. So like he gets it out, he lets someone know, and then they die and take it with them. So I thought that was fun. And the Black Russian in this, I was like, oh shit, that's this guy from this show that my kids and I watch, which I don't think I'd have to think about. No, I have seen him somewhere else, but I can't remember what, but he's in a show called Anne with an E. And it was very cool to see him because that's a fantastic show. The girls and I have watched a couple times, and I love it. So it's cool to see him. And how everyone in that car dies except for Hutch is beyond me. Like, he's in the trunk, no seatbelt, no protection, no nothing. They're in their seats. I would assume the front two drivers are in seatbelts and airbags, and everything is in their favor for a car wreck. He's in a trunk. No. He would definitely be the person who is most likely to die. So, whatever, sure, why not? It's convenient. And yeah, when Christopher Lloyd, the dad, in the senior facility, kills the two guys with a shotgun, and then the orderly walks in, and he's like, the television, and he's like, you gotta turn that down. This is where I say, like, this is that kind of thing where it's like, you can't take this seriously. You just can't do it. Because obviously that's nonsense. Number one, this is something we've got to stop believing in movies. There's no television that can recreate the sound of an actual gunshot in your vicinity. Like, the guy was right down the hall. If a shotgun went off, twice especially, even once, but regardless, it was twice, right there, 50 feet from you, you would call the police. You would call the police immediately. You would never in a million years think it was a television. And when he comes in, the television isn't even that loud. It's like normal level, maybe a little higher. To think that that's actually supposed to be the television is asinine. So that's one piece. And then the other obvious thing here is the first guy he shoots, he blasts across the room directly in front of him against the wall. Blood, guts, everything everywhere. And the guy walks in and he's holding the other guy like this. How he was able to do that, I don't know. He shot the guy and then pulled him even though he can barely stand up. He does stand up though later, so I guess he's more spry than I'm giving him credit for. But regardless, the guy comes in, thinks it's the television, bullshit, and then also doesn't seem to notice the guy's blood, guts, and body that would be laying literally right in his plain view from the direction we see. We see him in the chair here. He's directly looking at the television in front of him. The door's literally, like, not behind him, but to the left of his shoulder. And the wall's, like, right here in front of him at the where the TV is. He shoots this guy right here. His body would be laying right here. Blood would be all here. This guy walks in here. Body, blood, guts, everything. He'd be looking directly at it. Dude, I know the room's supposed to be a little darker. No. It ain't that dark. It ain't that dark. Nonsense. Just pure nonsense. Just movie bullshit. And I laughed. when I saw when he walked in and he's just like, you got to turn this TV down. Or he saw him and he was like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't get paid enough to deal with this bullshit. I don't want to take a shotgun to the chest trying to clean up whatever mess is going on here. Fuck this, I'm out. I'll go with that. How about that? I'll do him a solid here and write some headcanon. And I feel like Hutch kind of has some Joker moments in this where he burns all the money. Gotham deserves a better classic criminal, and I'm going to give it to him. And also, he uses like a bomb around all of the mobsters to like back them up. Let's not blow things out of proportion or whatever. I haven't watched The Dark Knight in a while, but I thought it was funny. There's a few Joker scenes kind of back to back that reminded me of it. Our main villain here is supposed to be like this very nutty, almost likable guy who's a karaoke enthusiast and is this wild, crazy guy. But then when he's questioned on like whether or not he's trustworthy with their money, if he looks like a wimp because he's going up there and being this, he's showing everyone, whoever was to come in, not to fear him. So he just randomly stabs a guy to death in front of all of them to prove he's a psycho and to show them like, no, nobody's ever going to think that of me. That was kind of funny. And then I love how in these movies there's always the plot convenience of bodies can just become like armor, right? So like Hutch grabs a guy and is using him as a human shield, and they're like shooting him 100 times, and the body never seems to let any of those bullets go through. Nonsense. If you shot, yes, there are definitely times where people get shot and the bullet gets lodged in their body. For sure, this definitely happens. But if you were to shoot a guy 10 times in a row, the odds that not a single one of them would be a through and through, that wouldn't like pass through the body. It's just ridiculous. Especially, and I know it's a more high caliber weapon, right? Stronger velocity, higher caliber bullet and whatever, but the RZA is in here and he shoots through 3 guys with one of his guns, but then literally like 30 seconds later Hutch is using a guy's body as a human shield. Now if they were wearing vests, this is how you can write this in for it to make sense. He goes like in John Wick, right? In chapter 3, Parabellum, he goes and he fights all of those guys covered in body armor. And so he has to like figure out a way to kill every one of them by like getting up under their masks and shooting them through it. Now those guys, 100% you could use as body armor. But most of these guys are just like wearing suits and stuff. They're not bulletproof. I mean, the point being is that he shot all of them directly in the chest or wherever, and they had no problem dying immediately. So the fact that there's no bullets that come through these guys is really funny to me. And he has some really strong glass, some really strong windows for this company that he works for, where it can take a fucking landmine, him holding it, and it doesn't blow him up. No way, dude. No way. I mean, there's bulletproof glass, but I don't know. I would have to see a dummy. Is there a video of like a dummy holding or like behind bulletproof glass and a landmine blows up, protecting and shielding him? I feel like his feet would have got wrecked. But regardless, is that, especially since that one, it got shot a few times already, and was already really cracked because of the bullets. I feel like if this bulletproof glass is like cracking from regular gunshots, a fucking landmine that's literally pressed up against it There's no way. There's no way that thing wouldn't kill him. But whatever. And then, yeah, I guess he goes into the police station and he gets bailed out by his people. And I'm assuming this means he works for them again at the end, because he gets like a call. And it's assumed that he's back with them. And I will see for Nobody 2. Is he working for them again? Is he back to his old ways? He buys the business that is his sister's brother works from, with gold bars, like gold bullion. I don't know. It's just like gold bars, and he fucking, like, the asshole brother-in-law tries to be tough with him again, and he like doesn't have to pretend anymore, so he just hits him once in the gut and he just sits him down. That was pretty funny. Like, okay, I'm done pretending. We're no longer gonna pretend like you're tougher than me. Like, sit the fuck down and shut up. So that was a funny scene, and now he owns this business that is shot to hell. So, yeah, good fight scene at the end, except for, of course, they always do, like, the back-to-back in the open. Everyone else is, like, coming in from around the room, hiding behind stuff, and you have 2 or 3 guys standing back-to-back out in the open shooting, and somehow they're winning. There's no way. They all would have gotten shot to death, right? The RZA takes one in the shoulder because, of course, in action movies, there's magnets in everyone's shoulders. Nothing ever hits anybody anywhere else. It's always the shoulder. It's always the fucking shoulder, right? But they always act like a shoulder shot wouldn't make the arm in which that shoulder is attached to kind of useless. If you got shot in your shoulder, if it was your left hand or your right hand, that hand would be fucked up. Like, that arm would not function correctly. So they always just act like it's like a place in the body where bullets can go. How many times have you seen someone shot in the shoulder in a movie? Like, this is like the writer's compromise of, like, okay, my hero has to have some vulnerability. Can't get shot in the head. He can't get shot in any of the major organs, right? It's either like in the arm or the shoulder. Those are the two, or a hand, maybe a hand shot. But then his hand would kind of be useless, right? And then the arm would also make the arm. This is just kind of a place in the body where everyone's like, well, you know, it's in the chest area, so it looks intense. But in the movie, it never really hinders them that much. But they don't want to kill them, and they don't want to incapacitate them. So nothing to the legs, because that prohibits their movement. You know, same with the feet. Any of the internal organs or the head or any of that is all death shots. So there's very limited areas on the body where a bullet can go, and 95% of the time they option for the shoulder. It's always the fucking shoulder. I mean, but as I just illustrated, there's not many places where you can get shot where it's like no big deal, right? So and for it to have that impact of like, oh, he got shot, it can't be a graze where it like slices the arm, maybe the side, or like, you know, something like that. No, it has to hit the body, make impact, have a hole bleeding out of it. That makes it more like, oh my god, he was shot, he's in danger of dying. And it's like, no one ever dies from a shoulder shot in a movie. So anyway, that's that. Nobody. It was fun. You know, I don't love it, but I enjoy it. And I'll keep my eye out for the second one. I don't know if I'll catch it in theaters or not, but we'll see. All right. Adios.